Hello, so today we're building the Ferrari F1 8788 in 1/43 scale by Hella. As you can see, the kit didn't exactly want to come out of the box. I bought this second-hand on eBay and the kit has definitely seen better days. Start by removing some of the parts that weren't already removed. Also, the upper wishbone suspension on the body was falling off, so I used some poly cement to try and reattach it. I also removed some of the flash using these clippers. Here I am sanding down some flash using these UMP sanding sticks. The way these 43rd scale cars work is that they're sort of two sandwich parts together. You've got the floor and the bodywork with the suspension attached, and then you use some metal rods to attach the wheels. Here I'm being very careful not to damage the bodywork, and then sanding that flat as well. It's already moulded in red, but yeah, I'm going to be painting this. Just shaving away some more of the flash using a craft blade. Here you can see that the rear suspension did fall off. I reattached that later. Now the floor here needs to be black, but there's a couple of the raised bodywork which will need to stay red. I'd already painted that red, and here I'm covering it up with a little bit of masking tape, cutting a slit to allow the suspension to feed underneath, and then folding that over. I've been using Wilko spray paints. Sadly that company is going into administration in the UK, but their spray paints are pretty good. This is their satin black, and I also use their gloss red for the bodywork here. It's primed all in Halford's white primer, all from a spray can. And there you can see the bodywork. That's not been painted yet, but that will fit over the top like so. Here it is primed. Now for the driver. Now this sprue here is the same on all of these 43rd scale kits. You've got the wheels and then the driver, and the helmet of the driver is made of two parts that are sandwiched together. Just sanding that down to try and help it fit as nicely as possible. This kit only comes with one set of driver decals, which means I'll be creating the number 28 of Gerhard Berger. I start by painting the exposed face parts with this Tamiya flat flesh paint colour. Berger's helmet was dark blue rather than the red which was suggested in the instructions, so I'm using this satin blue from Revell. I'll put a gloss coat over the top of this later. These water-based acrylics have just been thinned down with a little bit of water, and they flow really nicely with the paintbrush. I then use Revell Matte Red for the overalls. The driver figure has already been primed, so this paint goes down really nicely. And there you can see I've done a little bit of black and silver for the race straps as well. And here for the helmet decals, I'm using some Mr. Hobby Mark Setter. Comes with its own brush in the pot. That's from Kent Models. Really worthwhile purchase. It's quite fiddly to put on such a small helmet decal. When the decals had set, I masked the body and then painted his head in some gloss clear. There's a nice shine on that now. Now when it came to the bodywork of the car, I'd painted most of it gloss red, as I said, from Wilko, but the nose section here needed to be masked so that I could paint the front wing in satin black. This set comes with full colour instructions, which is useful. This car was used fairly unchanged from 1987 and 1988. And as I said, this kit is second hand, so you've got a mixed set of decals, which comes with everything you need with the exception of the tyre decals. Of course, this was during Fiat's ownership of Ferrari. Their logo was quite prominently on the engine cover. And you've got the little Scudetto on the side of the cockpit here. Again, I'm using the Mr. Mark set and then using a cotton bud to push it down into place. Got the Berger name on the Marlboro logos here. Obviously no Marlboro text on this. Some races did have a tobacco sponsorship banned in 1988 and 87, so that might be accurate for some races. I'm a big fan of the look of Ferraris from the late 80s and early 90s, where it was predominantly a red and a sort of darker red than the later sort of Marlboro sponsored cars, and then with black front and rear wings. I think that's a really nice look, something which Ferrari have returned to these last couple of seasons. There we are, pretty good. And then I printed my own Marlboro text on some blank decal paper and just put that over the top. I think that's pretty good. Now the rear wing, as I said, is in satin black, and you've got the agate fuel decals on the top, and as I said, this only comes with number 28. The number 28 decals weren't perfectly printed, but I think they're fair enough. Incidentally, does anyone know, is it agip or agip? Not sure how to say that. There's digital logos which go on the side of the front wings. You've also got these yellow squares. Now, I've since learned that these yellow squares were only on Berger's car, and they weren't on the number 27 of Michele Alboreto, and they were used for the pit crew to tell which car was which. The wheels, these are the same as all the other 143rd F1 kits, painted in black, and then I cleaned up the tyres as best as possible, and then pushed them carefully onto the copper axles. The front axle I painted satin black, but the rear one I left in the copper. That's sort of a test fit. Now I ordered replacement Goodyear Eagle decals from Decals in the US. They come on one continuous sheet of decal paper, so they need to be cut out individually. I find that these nail scissors are very useful for this kind of job as they are curved. And again, I'm using some of that decal setting solution from Mr. Hobby. These went down very nicely. And now that the bodywork has all been clear coated, I'm using some Revell semi-gloss black to do the suspension parts. Also did the inside of the cockpit and around the tail, and the inside of the side pods I did in silver. Good to do this after the clear coat because that means that mistakes can be more easily cleared up. Got the steering wheel, which was a bit of a tight fit but did go in place. Seat of this car should be a sort of beige colour. I'm using some Revell sand. And then I cut out a small bit of plastic packaging to use as the visor for the helmet. That was super glued into place. Now most of the bodywork here actually doesn't need any glue, it just fits together securely. Though I did find that I needed to sand Berger's arms down just a little bit as the cockpit was just a bit too tight. For the nose, needs a bit of poly cement, and there's a little pinhole just to secure that into the right place. Bit of a visible seam line here between the nose and the rest, but never mind. Then, as this was one of the last V6 turbo cars, the 80s at least, you've got the intakes which go onto the side pods and the roll hoop which goes behind the head. The rear light was done in silver and then with a bit of red Sharpie, and then the rear spoiler was super glued onto the top of that. And with that, it's finished. Let me know what you think down below, but I'll leave you with some words from the immortal Murray Walker.
Spin! Senna! Ayrton Senna spins! And into the lead goes Berger, into second place goes Alboreto. What a fantastic situation! It's going to be a fantastic finish for the Italian Grand Prix, and history is being made in 1988. Listen to the crowd. Ferrari wins. Ferrari second. And the first Italian Grand Prix since the death of the great Enzo Ferrari has seen his beloved Scarlet cars from Maranello honour his memory with first and second places, and it's a truly happy crowd.